Well, good evening, welcome to the last tackle here on the Sportsman Rugby League. We're in the last few days of August, of course, which means we're entering September and it is officially playoff season. There is still so much on the line across all of our competitions. Of course, in the studio with me today, Kevin Brown and Adrian Morley. And gents, this is always an exciting time of the year, Kev, but there's just so many question marks and so many stories and clubs that we're not used to seeing in various scenarios involved at the moment.
There is. Normally it's pretty set, isn't it? There's one or two who the form's pretty good, but there's a couple at the bottom of that top six that I really fear for, and there's a couple of them chasing down, especially Lee. I think they've won 7 out of the last 8 games, so they're one of the form teams in the comp, chasing clubs down, and I do think they'll grab one, whether it's Catalans or whether it's Saints, I'm not sure, but I think both teams are in jeopardy of falling out.
Even in the last few weeks, Moss, because that 3-horse race for the League Leaders' Shield has been pretty consistent for a while. Obviously, even within that, there's then a race for the top 2 and all the benefits of that, but it doesn't feel like that long ago. I think I said to someone that it was probably 2 teams playing for 1 place in the 6. All of a sudden, it's 4 teams playing for 2.
Yeah, Wigan were the form team, and justifiably, we say they're going to get one of the top 2, but it's not a given at the moment. So Hull KR are absolutely flying. Warrington are going very, very well, but really exciting at the top. Really exciting, as Kev said, who's going to make the playoffs. Saints and Catalans, they're lacking form and confidence, and Leeds and Lee, they're ready to take the spoils. So fantastic. There's going to be some twists and turns throughout here and the end of the season. Can't wait.
We'll start with the race for the 6 and work our way upwards, Kev. We'll start with Leeds. Not particularly pretty, that win last time out against Catalans, but a real confidence booster, proof that they can stick into those tough games, and ultimately 2 points on the board, so valuable at this point.
Well, yeah, I think it's a complete contrast to not being pretty at the start of the year. Not being pretty at the start of the year meant they got beat. I think defensively now what Brad Arthur's done is he's given the ability and the courage to go, we are attacking them defensively, we're going to fly off our line. I think Jared O'Connor's been a revelation since Brad come in, the line speed he's got. But he's also found some gems. Tom Nicholson-Watton, he's a player that very few people knew of, and he's all of a sudden he's started to get game time, and he's been leaving some more senior players out, and he's picking the team on merit, not on names, and whoever defends the best and tries the hardest for Leeds at the minute seems to get the job. But as a collective, I think, there's still a lot to go in terms of cohesion attack-wise, but defensively they look a different team. So that alone, most teams, the best defensive sides, were the best teams, and I think they are one of the best defensive sides in the comp at this moment in time.
Yeah, I was going to mention Tom Nicholson-Watton was a player that I'm sure you enjoy watching, because everything's front foot, everything's direct, hits the carry, there's no handbrake. It looks, he's only played a few games, let's not put too much pressure on him, but he looks like a real gem. Yeah,
it is one of them who I particularly like watching. He attacks with and without the ball. But yeah, I thought Leeds were pretty scratchy in that first half, and it was a classic tale of 2 halves, and they come out the second half and they righted a few wrongs, and thought they were worthy winners, and as you say, it was a big confidence boost coming into the business end of the season, so they'll be confident they can make the top 6. Again, Catalans, it just, when you are losing and when your confidence is low, losing does become a habit, unfortunately, and they are struggling at the moment, but they need to find something, need to find a spark to give them a lift.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Catalans. Obviously, there was a big kind of sticking point in their season where they released 3 players for disciplinary reasons, and a bold decision, but ultimately one that I guess they'll stand by. Obviously, Sam Tompkins came back in, he's picked up injuries, it's just not quite clicking. There's moments in there where you can see they're still a good team, but it's just not fluid at the moment.
No, it's not, and when you look what Nicarima's doing at Salford, it is an head scratcher, but I believe what Steve McNamara has done short term, they might have a negative, but long term, I think positively, there's got to be standards, there's got to be a culture, and you can't have people doing the wrong thing by the group. So yeah, I think the fact that Sam Tompkins came in and then he's got injured has really hurt them. I think if Sam was playing, I do think they probably win that game. I thought they had enough ball. Attack, they just look poor at the moment. They just look void of ideas. They don't look like they've got the keys to open the defences, and they're trying really hard, but I just don't think they've got the firepower or cohesion to open the best defences. And yeah, they lost another game, and I really do worry for them and the form in the back end of this season if they can stay in the top 6.
If you look at the side at the start of the year, they was on fire, weren't they? I think they won 6 out of 7, and if you look at that team now to the team we see, and it's you can just tell confidence is low, and it isn't a snowball and a knock-on effect. So they need to find something. Where they'll get that from, I'm not too sure though.
The recruitment for next season, they've really set their stall out, some of the names they've brought in. I'm sure Steve McNamara just feels if he can get a little bit of that spark now, then get into the playoffs and they'll be all right. You mentioned Jaden Nicarima, what a difference a week makes. For Salford, wow, I mean, against Lee, that was one of their worst performances of the season. I don't think anyone within the Salford camp would dispute that. They were well off the boil, and they looked like a team that were maybe running out of a little bit of steam. And then they put 60 past Huddersfield.
Well, yeah, I spoke with Kurt Haggerty and I said, what is it that you did or looked at? And he said, we changed our attack a little bit that gave Jaden Nicarima a little bit of freedom. And that freedom, he just looks like he's so much faster than everyone else on the field. The try he scored at the end of the first half, I think, where he just danced around and then went straight through Chris Hill and a couple of other great defenders. He just made it look easy. So he's been a great acquisition. I think Paul Rowley and the stability that they've got now, all the rumours have been put to bed, I think has really helped as well. And Salford are a danger for everyone in that top 6 because when they're playing like that, they genuinely can beat everyone. And if they can replicate that a couple more times, we've seen in the past that, you know, it's not about what you've done at the start of the season, it's how your form is going into the back end, and their form off the back of that game is terrific.
Yeah. They've got one of the tougher run-ins, Moz, with the Wigan, Hull still to play, Catalans as well, but when you look at the form of the teams below them and that scrap for 6th and 5th, are they in the box seat for I mean, they sit 4th, so they are in the box seat in that sense, but are they the favourites at this point to finish in the top 4?
I think so. I mean, even though Salford will be hoping it don't come down to goal difference, but that was a massive boost to get plus 50 against Huddersfield. But you know, I thought Nicarima was great. Nenny McDonald is one of the form centres at the moment. But I think, as Brownie said, when they get it right, Salford, they can beat anyone on the day. So people will be fearing Salford coming into these playoffs if Salford do make it. But I think the crunch game for Salford is they've got Catalans at home in a couple of weeks, so I think if they win that, I think they'll be home and dry into the playoffs.
It's not often over the years, as we've sat in this studio and lamented the way that St Helens are playing and the form that they've been in, but that feeling of it's Saints, they'll come good, has kind of dissipated, and all of a sudden, if I was a Saints fan, I'd be really worried about making the playoffs full stop.
Yeah, well, if you look at the two teams below Saints, you've got to say on form, they're not favourites to make the playoffs at all, and to get beat, not just beat at home, which is, you know, for Saints over the last 5 or 6 years is very, very rare. It's the manner in which they got beat. Hull are going great, we know that, but they really did put them to the sword, and you'd see a lot of their spectators leaving early, which we've not seen that Saints for a long time. So they're struggling with injuries, you know, let's not skip around that. Very, very massive injury list. They need a lot of players back before the end of the season, but it's very hard to get quality players and say, right, you know, show a bit of form now. They need to be playing week in, week out.
The younger players that have actually gone in, I think they've made a good of account of themselves. I think Paul Wellens said something about the senior players at the weekend not pulling the weight and the younger players doing the job. And I just think the defence, some of the tries that they conceded, there was a try Tyrone May scored. You know, it looked like League One stuff. They backed off over the line. He threw a dummy and put the ball down. It was so easy. Going to St Helens has always been, regardless who takes that field and who has that shirt on, has always been a tough job. But at the moment, whether it's confidence or personnel, whatever it is, it looks really poor.
What will the mindset be at St Helens at the moment, Kev? Because, look, they're still very much in the hunt for the top 6. They're not written off at all. But I almost get a feeling with it. Like, sport goes in cycles. St Helens were never going to win the grand final indefinitely forever. They won 4 in a row, which was incredible. But are they at a point now where they need to start looking a year, 2 years down the line and getting themselves back to that level, or are there quick fixes? Well,
I think they'll probably want a quick fix. I don't think they'll realise or want to admit that it's a club in transition, but I think it is. And I think it's uncharted territory mentally as well. I think when you've had such a period of dominance and things have been going so well, and if you don't win a trophy, you expect to win the trophy. Well, at the minute, I think there'll be a lot in that group looking round going, this is like you know, the time when Nathan Brown took over and things started going wrong, and it was a real poor. I think there was only a couple of players, probably, you know, Johnny Lomax, Tommy Makeson and people like that who were still in that club who could, you know, draw on past experiences. But for the majority of them players, this is completely new. So mentally it may hurt them much more, and it may take a little bit longer than just the back end of this season to get right.
We have to talk about how good Hull KR were in that game and have been all season. We were talking about it off air. I'm running out of superlatives for them. Throughout this season we've been going, are they the real deal? Are they dark horses? Can they do it? There's no question now. We are looking at a team that's good enough to be the first new name on the trophy in 19 years.
Yeah, no, forget about what's in front of you. You know, St Helens are form's poor and that kind of thing, but to go to St Helens against any team and get the result they had, every week we question, can they maintain it, and they've answered every question, haven't they? And I think it's fantastic for the Super League, it's fantastic for the sport that another team is in the mix. You know, the top of the table, they're not there by chance, they're there on merit, and you know, they'll be very, very confident they can go on, get the league leaders. Once you've got the league leaders, you know, you've just got to win one game to get to the grand final. I personally would love to see Hull KR get to the grand final. I think it'd be great to have another team in the mix. Yeah, so
the home semi will be massive as well, because it's such a tough place to go.
Yeah,
it'll be rocking. It's a guaranteed sellout. I think Willie Peters, what he does, he gets the best out of every player. I think Elliot Minchella, the way he's playing, I've not seen him in this form. And all the players he signed, Peteriku, Nye Levelled, Joe Burgess scored 4 tries. He just seems to get the best out of the team, and you know, that obviously provides a great team performance.
Look, no prizes at the beginning of the season for guessing that Wigan will be there or thereabouts at the top. But it's a different looking top 3 to what we've been used to in recent years. And I know Warrington have been there or thereabouts. You obviously both have first-hand experience of how close they've been over the years. But Hull KR are in the mix as well. There's just a real fresh kind of feeling to this end of the season, isn't there, Kev?
Well, yeah, and you throw Salford in there, and I think I expect Lee to get in there as well. I think no team will want to play them because how dangerous they will be. So it's as exciting, yeah, you're right, Lewis, it's as exciting I've seen it in terms of being a neutral, you know, for as long as I can remember.
I think, Moz, we've almost answered this question already, but is it kind of the feeling now that the teams in 7th and 8th are actually probably the form teams to be 5th and 6th?
Yeah, 100%. Like Brownie said, Hull have won. Lee have won 7 of the last 8. The only loss they had was against Wigan away, which is a tough ask for them. So yeah, I'd say Lee are in top form. Leeds, you know, they beat a team just above them in the Catalan Dragons. So I think Leeds and Lee will be confident of making the top 6. Saints and Catalans, they're the other direction, aren't they? Their form's not as good. So, but it's compelling. You know, there's some juicy fixtures this weekend. Can't wait to see how it pans out. But I think Lee will make it.
Just a word on Warrington before we move on, Kev. They're no doubt that they're very much in the mix. Sam Burgess seems to have instilled something very, very kind of serious and tough into that team. Matt Duffy potentially out for the rest of the season, certainly out until the playoffs, it would seem. How big is that as a real kind of sliding doors moment in this season? It's
huge. I think fullback in the modern era is probably if not the most important position, definitely one of. But what they are very blessed to have is Kai Taylor-Ray coming in. What he did at the weekend, if he can replicate that, and I think one thing Sam's done is give confidence to these young players, Aaron Lindop, Max Wood, them players, when they come in, they are performing. Make no mistake about it, Matt Duffy out of the team is a huge negative and a huge loss for Warrington. But in Kai Taylor-Ray, they've got a lad there, you know, he's clearly not as experienced, but he can do stuff that is very similar to Matt Duffy, so he's a very similar trade there. But yeah, it's a loss, and I'm sure they're going to feel the impact of that.
You know Sam very well. For all of his lack of experience as a head coach, how much does his kind of presence and leadership make up for that in terms of what he'll be like in the changing rooms?
Absolutely huge. I know for a fact that the players love him, even though he's an inexperienced coach. But you know, when you get a coach that the players want to play for, that is absolutely huge. And regardless of what happens this year, you've got to say Sam Burgess has done an excellent job. It's been a successful year for the Warrington Wolves to make a Challenge Cup final and to be in the mix till the end of the year. But we don't know what's going to happen. But I think he's done a fantastic job for the club, and it's where Warrington should be really. They need to be challenging for these major honours, and I think they're going to give it a go for the grand final, obviously.
On the subject of head coaches, just moving on to a remarkable story really that's been unfolding in the Betfred Championship regarding a good friend of all of ours, Kyle Amor. Whitehaven Rugby League, it's been no secret, have been in some trouble for a few weeks now. So on a Friday night, Kyle gets a phone call, an SOS call to step in as the head coach of Whitehaven Rugby League Club. On Monday night he finds out that his squad are refusing to play because they've fallen out of the board. Thursday night he's managed to kind of turn things around to a point where he has some players available to take to Dewsbury on Sunday, and then on Sunday he leads a squad of 14 to a win against Dewsbury in a relegation dogfight. That's the context, that's the story. It's obviously a live story. It's not something that any of us foresaw coming, certainly not Kyle. Let's hear from the man himself on a crazy 8 or 9 days in Cumbria.
So that conversation on the Friday meant that I had to go, I had to speak to my wife and just say, look, there's not really much I could do about it here, because I'd been made aware that without a coach, then it would go under. I'm not too sure there were many coaches given that part of the season who would put their hand up and take it on. But for me, I thought about what Whitehaven would look like without rugby league, and that is the harsh reality of it, Lewis. There's, if we couldn't fulfil fixtures and we can't fulfil fixtures, then there's no guarantee of a rugby league licence in the town of Whitehaven for professional rugby league ever again. And I think that would be a travesty. I think the amateur game is continuing to do what it does, and all those coaches at grassroots level should be applauded for that. But the area is and always will be built upon the previous generations of miners and rugby league, and we've already lost one of those identities, in mining, and I just felt that we are so close to losing another that I couldn't just sit back and let that happen, knowing that with the backing of my wife and my family, that I'm in a position where I can do this. And look, I don't know if the next 5 weeks are going to be kind to us. I've no doubt there'll be more bumps in the road, but there's a chance, and this is what I've tried to tell the players, a chance of achieving something really, really special. Ultimately we've got to go out there as a playing group and try and win games, and that is where I cannot champion this group more than enough. To win against Doncaster, sat higher in the league than them with 16 players, was pretty good, but to go to Dewsbury with 14 people, one of those which our sub Will Evans had literally just took his foot out of a boot to be on the bench, and we get through that game with a win. I described it as, I don't know if it's the greatest win of Whitehaven's 70-odd year history, because obviously I don't go back that far, but it's certainly the greatest win in the modern era for me, and the importance of that win just keeps our season alive, Lewis. So I realise I haven't really paused for a breath yet, but there's been an awful lot going on.
Yeah, there's a bigger conversation to be had about how Whitehaven have ended up in this situation and what the future holds there. But Kev, you know Kyle very well, and we're biased on this show because he's a friend of ours, but it should be spoken about what he's doing to drop everything, answer the call, and try and keep a club that is very close to his heart, obviously, going and just get them through this tough period.
Yeah, when you put it into context, Kyle doesn't want to be a rugby coach. He doesn't even want to coach at grassroots level. He's got a great knowledge, but he's doing other things. And I think if any other club in the English game, whether it be the top teams in Super League all the way down, I don't think he'd have done it. So the fact that he's doing it for these, he's doing it for compassion and love for the area and the club. I said to Moz before, Cumbrians just are so proud about where they come from. And he's trying to put it back. It's going to be a real difficult task. It's almost Harry Houdini, like if he can get out of the relegation mix that they're in at the moment. But what a great start he did by not only getting the lads the victory, but getting them on the field, because there was all sorts of turmoil and politics before that game. Just to get to the start line was a hard job for Kyle, but then to get a group together. And he said to me, he rang me before on about his coaching technique, and he said, I'm not showing him anything other than, look, we've just got to work for each other. And there was a lad who cut a boot off, hours before the game. He'd not run for 3 weeks. So it just shows there might only be a few of them left there, but they are all willing to fight and die for that cause of Whitehaven Rugby League.
Yeah, and he's staying up there at the moment. Obviously, he's got family still up there, but it's a lot of mileage, Moz, and the people are what make this game great and what keep it going. But in this case, at a professional level as well, it's a remarkable story, really. When you said off air, it's almost like a movie script.
It is, yeah. Well, when you started saying that, it was. And the fact that they got the win the first week was fantastic, but he needs to be commended, and his family around him and all the support. But it's fantastic that he's doing that for his. It's amazing the tie and affiliation you have for your hometown club. And I know Kev mentioned they're very proud, the Cumbrian folk. So brilliant what he's doing. I do wish him all the best. It's going to be very, very tough. But yeah, they've got off to a good start, haven't they?
I don't want to be too nice about him though, Kev.
No, well, he mentioned putting his boots on. I said, you're supposed to be going down there trying to help out, not sending them down to relegation that easy.
Well, staying in the Championship, Wakefield lifted the League Leaders' Shield at the weekend. It's never really been in doubt throughout this season, but that's the same as considering where they were 12 months ago and the change of ownership. It's an incredible turnaround. It
is an incredible turnaround, and it's great for the club. They've just had a lot of money spent on the stadium. The stadium had its day. I've seen it recently. It's absolutely fantastic. The fact that they're playing the Championship, Wakefield deserve to be in Super League. They would feel, and it's no secret that they've been the best team in the Championship all year, and they won the League Leaders. They just need to get another step now. But it's great, great for the city, and I wish them all the best.
And since we were last in the studio as well in Betfred League One, Oldham have clinched the title in that division. They'll finish top of the league. Again, another club that's gone through a real kind of dip, but now a massive resurgence. Yeah,
and Bill Quinn, he's put his money in, and Mike Ford and Sean Long have gone there and led the charge, but they're building something really nice. I think it's always good when you've got a team doing really well, but the fact that they're getting into the community, they're driving the youngsters to the game, they're getting good crowd figures, I think that's what it's all about. And the same with Matt Ellis at Wakefield, it's not just about putting money into the team, the infrastructure and the ground and everything. I think both clubs are doing really successful things, and I can't wait to see them upper league next year.
I remember playing against Oldham when the Super League started in 96, 97, and there was at Boundary Park. Since they left Boundary Park, they were nomads really, going from place to place, but great at the back at Boundary Park, great at what they're doing in the community, and there's a feel-good factor there at Oldham, and again, fair play to them. I wish them all the best. It's another Lancashire team, and hopefully they can keep climbing the ladder.
Great to see Sean Long doing well as well. He's a fabulous player, and it's just good to see those kind of players doing well as a coach as well.
Yeah, and just the type or the brand of football that he's playing. He's throwing it about, the scoring 60, 70 points, so it must have been a great year for Oldham fans to watch, and it's no wonder that the figures have gone up. So speaking to so many of the players there who were enjoying it, and a lot of that's down to not just Sean Long but Mike Ford as well. I think the combination of both is working fantastically at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like the sky is the limit for Oldham, but plenty still to play for in League One, of course, with the playoff picture. It's that time of year: playoffs, semi-finals, relegation battles, title hopes. Keep your eyes peeled on our social media here at The Sportsman. We will have confirmation of our end of season coverage very, very soon. Well, good afternoon and welcome to The Sportsman.
And on the close to score! Towards the corner and scoring in the corner.
He is going to score in the corner. That is a remarkable finish.
Goes for the corner and Learberg's in.
Partington all the way to the line.
And it's Tamsin Renew. The pass from Holly Dodd.
London are going to get there and touch down right through the post. Can they get on the end of it? Yes, they can. He's gone for the same ball, and it's going to work.
Beautiful.
It's going to be able. Is he able to strike one through the post? He might score the winner.
Brings it up to the line, drops it off to Hazard, who reaches through. Now it's on, perhaps. He's got it.
Yeah, loads to look forward to on the Sportsman. We're bringing you those live games all season, of course. We started off in the Challenge Cup in February. Here we are, just a few weeks to go, and so much on the line. And of course, so much on the line in the Betfred Super League, and that is what we're going to talk about now this weekend. It kicks off really interesting game Friday night. Lee Leopards against the Warrington Wolves. Loads on the line. Lee, not quite in knockout football mode yet, but they're not far off, Kev. Warrington, of course, needing to keep the pressure on the top two. And we've spoken about Dufty being missing. He's at Lee Sports Village. There's loads of ingredients to this one.
There is. There's a bit of needle as well from what happened previously with Josh Charnley and Josh Maguire. And, you know, there's a definite, you know, derby match about to take place. I think this is where we see how good Lee actually are, how far they have come. I think if they win this game, they are nailed on. They're going to get in the playoffs, and one of Saints or Catalans will drop out. So this is huge. But Warrington, it's huge for them as well, because without Matt Dufty, they need the confidence amongst the group that they can win the game. We've seen how, you know, Wiggins' form has dipped without Bevan, and I think that's because of the confidence in the group. So huge game for me. I think Lee win this game. I think they'll just have enough. They're in great form, and they need it probably a little bit more than Warrington.
We're going to learn a lot about Warrington and what they're going to be like kind of going into the lines then.
Yeah, I think if Warrington don't win this game, they won't get the league leaders shield. So simple as that. So I think just that incentive. I think Warrington are going to go there and throw everything at Lee. You know, Lee, we've spoke out how good they are going, but I just think Warrington have. I think they got the win last week, but they were a bit scratchy. I just think it's going to be playoff intensity on Friday, and I think Warrington are going to go there and get the win.
That moves on to another game on Friday night, and this is a belter. Hull KR, top of the table, flying high. We've spoken about, you know, they keep selling that place out against a Salford team, obviously full of confidence after putting 60 on Huddersfield. Moz, this scoreline could be absolutely anything.
It could be anything. Warrington, Salford have been there this year and come up short, but I just think Hull KR, they are flying. Don't get me wrong, and they're very tough to beat, even at home. But to go to their home ground and get the win, I think it'll be just a bit too much for Salford. But if Salford have got aspirations of not only making the playoffs but doing something in it, you know, they've got to go to a Hull KR, they've got to go to Warrington, they've got to go to a Wigan in a major semi-final at some point. So I think this will be a great test for Salford. I think they'll compete hard, but I just think Hull KR will have just a bit too much.
I'm not suggesting for a second, Kev, that teams going to games not trying to win them. It's an interesting dynamic for Salford because they realistically need a win. One more win before the end of the season to get into the top six. Top four aspirations still very much alive. Could they be kind of forgiven for targeting other games for those results?
I see where you're coming from, but I don't think that's in Paul Rowley's DNA. I think they'll be going there. They have to right a few wrongs. They've been there to Craven Park a few times and been well beaten. So it's about confidence for their own group, regardless where they finish. They'll expect to be in the six now. They'll expect to win every game, and I think, you know, this matchup, Salford versus Hull KR, if both teams play their absolute best, I'm not sure who wins. I think they're both that good. We've seen, you know, 60 points from one team and 42 against another, respectively, last week. So if they turn up, what a game this could be. It could be one of the best attacking matchups that we've seen all season.
Yeah, I think that is the thing, isn't it, Woz? Is the two styles. It's attack versus attack, it's speed versus speed. It's two teams that certainly not going to go and try and spend the first few rounds of the fight boxing clever and working each other out. They are just going to go for this.
Yeah, I think so. When you mentioned that point before, are they going to go and, you know, potentially just take it easy? That's not in any rugby player, you know, and particularly not Paul Rowley's DNA. So they're going to go for the win. You know, very tough. To get a win at Hull KR is, you know, I don't think have they been beat there this year. I'm not so sure they've been beat, or they've been beat very little. But it's going to be very tough. But as I say, if they're going to be in the mix for the playoffs and, you know, playing for the grand final, they're going to have to go and beat the best teams. And Hull KR are the best team at the moment. Yeah, it's going to be a great encounter. And I'm looking forward.
The other side of Hull. What a contrast. That makes it even more interesting, doesn't it? It's just the change. We did a thing about the whole derby at the beginning of the season, and one of the things that we said was that the thing that makes it strange, that derby, is that the two teams never seem to be at the top together. Certainly true this season. Hull FC fans, I'd imagine, are just waiting for the end of the year at this point. But Castleford Tigers, a team that are vulnerable, a team that have shown glimpses, but are towards the bottom end of the table. There's an opportunity for Hull FC in front of the home fans to try and put a few things right. Yeah,
it's not the matchup that we've just been speaking about, but what I would say is you've got to give respect to both Simon Griggs and Craig Lingard. I think they've both made sure that the teams stay competitive. I thought Castleford were very close to making it a good close match against Warrington, just fell away at the end by a little bit of quality, but yeah, they'll both want to hang in there and finish the season and give the fans something to cheer about. It's been poor seasons for both, but I expect Castleford just to be too good with some senior players, Paul McShane back and Joe Westerman and Adam Watts, I think ex-Hull players. I think they'll go there and try and inflict a little bit more misery to the black and whites.
But sometimes, Moz, when it's two teams towards the bottom, there's no pressure as such, there's nothing really to play for. That can produce some of the more entertaining games.
No, I totally agree. But none of the teams can obviously make the playoffs. But I think what's the main incentive for Hull is if results don't go their way, if London potentially get the win or London have a couple of big points for and against, that they could finish actually bottom, Hull. So no one wants the wooden spoon. So I think that'll be a big incentive. I thought they have improved, Hull, and I just think. At home, I just think that they've got it in them. Cass, they've been spirited themselves last few weeks, but I just think Hull have got this one.
Moving on, Catalans won't be in panic mode just yet. Ultimately, they are in the top 6 at the moment. That's where they want to be at the end of the year. But a win against Wigan will be a handy one for them at this point.
Yeah, I disagree. I think they will be panic mode. I think Bernard Gosh is. I think he'll be panicking and tapping on a few people's shoulders, saying sort it out ASAP. And the last thing you want coming over the hill is Wigan Warriors, full of young, confident players, ready to make a name for themselves. I think Catalan will be too good for Wigan in Perpignan. I think it's a really difficult place to go. And like I said, there's a lot of inexperience in that side at the moment at Wigan, and I just think they'll be a little bit too wet behind the ears when they turn up there. I think everyone will be telling them how much different it is and how difficult it is, but I think they'll realise that when they get smacked in the face in real time, and Catalans will take this victory.
Yeah, the travel's tough. We spoke about that, and I just think, looking at Steve McNamara's face after the game, I think he'll be fuming all week. I think he will have cracked the whip this week. There'll be a much improved performance by Catalans, and I agree with Brownie. I think they'll get the win.
There's another interesting dynamic to this game from a Wigan perspective, which can go one of two ways. They're going to know what the other results around them are at this point. So, if Warrington has beaten Lee and Hull KR have beaten Salford, all of a sudden it becomes even more important than it already is, and that can either narrow the focus or it can put more pressure on Kev.
Yeah, I'll go back to what Moz said before though. I never remember going into a game thinking I'm going to try harder because of that result or that result. I
don't know if his efforts such as it is. But there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on potentially.
Yeah, and pressure there is a few younger players in that Wigan side, and sometimes younger players, the pressure can be a burden or it can be water off a duck's back. Well, only time will tell. But I think Wigan are a very professional outfit. I don't even know if they'll be on the phones looking at the results. I think the travel will be there. They'll be polar focused on this opposition. But I do think Catalans, regardless what Wigan bring, I think they will be good enough. And I agree with what Moz said. I think Steve McNamara will have them, ready to go this week. They'll be on fire and they'll hit the straps and win this game.
Huddersfield St Helens, in any other circumstance, you'd look at Saints will go into this quite heavy favourites. Huddersfield will be absolutely real, and Luke Ross was fuming after that performance against Salford, and rightfully so. St Helens are in freefall, there's no doubt about it. It goes from bad to worse. The players have got missing. This is a real, I've used this phrase once already, but this could be a massive sliding doors moment in this season.
Well, yeah, I think both go in there almost a bit with a burden on the shoulders of we cannot lose this game. I think it'll almost be a relief whoever wins the game. They're both coming off huge losses. They'd have both had tough weeks. The coach would have had, crisis meetings with the players, and I think the start's probably never been more important in a game. The first 10 or 15 minutes, Moz, is always important, but when you're underconfident, it's more important.
We spoke about the pressure being off in that Hull FC Castleford game, and the same is true in some respects for Huddersfield because they can't make the playoffs, but they've put pressure on themselves with the manner of their performance last week.
Yeah, they have. You know, I mentioned a minute ago, Steve McNamara, when your team does suffer a loss which you don't think they warranted, or you know, coaches do tend to go overboard in terms of preparation and well, cracking the whip and that kind of thing. So I think Huddersfield will be under the same pressure and standards this week. But I just think St Helens, even though their confidence is low, I just think they're going to get back on track this week. I think they're going to go there with a big performance. Some of the bigger players are going to stand up. I think Saints will win and win quite convincingly, really.
Rounding off the weekend, London Broncos, Leeds Rhinos. Kev, all logic suggests that Leeds are going to go there and win reasonably comfortably. It would be very, very indicative of this season, the way Leeds have been and the way that London have just been awkward for teams this year, if something a bit strange happened at the weekend.
And really awkward down at Wimbledon as well. I was down there watching Warrington play a couple of weeks ago, and Warrington should have lost that game. London have been very good. I've been super impressed with a few of their players. Lewis Bierneck, the front rower, he looks like he's unstoppable. He looks like the new Alex Walmsley. I think London win this game. I don't think Leeds will expect to lose the game. They'll go there and if London can perform like they have done in the last couple of weeks, I think they've got the measure of Leeds.
And London have a point to prove because of the politics that's going on and the way that the structure is this season, and the fact that regardless of where they finish, they're probably doomed to be relegated to the Championship next season, and it just feels like that kind of being their bonnet might be enough to drive them up.
Yeah, they'd absolutely love not to finish bottom of the Super League, won't they? But you know, Leeds, if they've got any aspirations of making the playoffs and doing anything in the playoffs, they need to get the win. But you know, they are prickly and awkward. I'm looking forward to this match immensely, but I think Leeds will be too good, but I think it'll be a very, very close one.
Yeah, it's a great weekend again in front of the telly or at a game if that's what you're doing. We're running out of time quickly, gents. I just want to pick up on a couple of points. We touched on it earlier, how tight it is at the top. We touched on pressure. We've touched on, you know, the way some teams play. I think we're going to get more wrong than we get right sat in the studio before now the end of the season, Kev.
Yeah, that's probably because of the personnel that's in the studio. Right? Is that what you're getting at? I think, well, and that's what the salary cap was aimed to do. I think, you know, you go to a game hoping and expecting your team to win. If you know, with every respective fan, even if you are London and you've had a poor season, you can turn up at Wimbledon on the weekend and expect to beat the Rhinos. So that's the great thing about our sport. Everyone can beat anyone, and often pundits are wrong. It's not that we're bad; it's that the competition's very, very good.
Very good, good answer, Kev.
I think you can probably go back over the last few years and find evidence of me saying the same thing every season. But this feels like the most unpredictable, most competitive end to a season we've had in a while.
100%, and you know, I hate harping on about the NRL, but that's one thing it has got over the Super League is the competitiveness and the fact that anyone can beat anyone on the day, and we're not quite there yet, but it's been, as you say, the most competitive, and you know, there's been lots of surprises along the way. There's going to be a few more twists and turns before the end of the year, but it's been fantastic. I've loved every minute of it.
I'm glad you mentioned the NRL because you've just reminded me of one last thing that I meant to bring up with you, especially, Moz. Sam Burgess inducted into the NRL Hall of Fame, a legend of the game, obviously a really good fit to Warrington, but that is some achievement for an Englishman to go there. You know it well, of course, to go there and be recognised and revered in the way that he is. Absolutely
fantastic. Nothing less than he deserves. What he done over there, he's probably been the most accomplished and successful player, English player who's gone over there, and you know, he's revered at South Sydney, and I was delighted for Sam, you know, give him a ring and congratulated him, and fantastic. Gents, thank you for joining us. Loads to get through as ever. What a week this is going to be. We say every week feels loaded with significance at the moment. We're going to be sat here in a week's time, and I'm sure it's going to look very, very different again. So make sure you join us next Wednesday. As I say, we will have confirmation of our coverage of the end of the season on our social media channels soon, so bear with us on that one, and we will see you next week for more from The Last Tackle.